all know 2020 sucked this year, so why should we even do this intro? Let's move on to the top 10 games I played and beaten for 2020. Story of Seasons is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me. Land spreading out so far and wide. Keep horizon, just give me that countryside. After the disappointment of Animal Crossing New Horizons and the constant death threats my friend keeps sending me, I finally decided to play this relaxing series for an itch that wasn't quite scratched. And boy howdy do country girls make do, because this has a surprisingly addictive game mechanic in crop harvesting mixed together with get-rich quick schemes and a dating sim. Perhaps what sets apart the remake from the original game, though, aside from the accessible stamina bar, easier to manage tool bag, and the revamped save system, is the ability to get gay married. That's right, the best kind of marriage is here! And gosh, are all again, it's super cute and wonderful to you when you marry them, like, oh my gosh. Honestly, when we talk about gay rights and ability to get married, it's not some sort of sexual kink or whatever, it's cute stuff like this. But aside from the gay agenda, honestly, Friends of Mineral Town really keeps you working toward making the best farm you can, and with crops to harvest, friendships to manage, and a mining dungeon, really does the game feel boring, and any morning time that you do have is often regulated to just breathing from a busy schedule. Friends of Mineral Town never quite challenges you more than some small time management, but when you want to stop thinking about city life and unwind, nothing hits the spot quite like farm living. The Missing has creepy imagery depicting severed body limbs and mention of self-harm, all of which tie heavily into the narrative and give it a far more subtle feeling, and help place it well into the horror genre. So if this doesn't sound like your thing, please get to this. The game follows a young college student named JJ that visits a strange island with her girlfriend to get away from it all. When she wakes up, she realizes her girlfriend is missing and thus must go find her. But as she travels further into the island, strange things start happening. Eventually you'll learn you could come back to life after getting stabbed, burnt, or chopped into pieces. This leads to a lot of puzzles and platforming that require you to harm yourself in order to move forward. And these puzzles are a fairly decent variety, as the game often presents a gimmick and builds on it, or moves on to another gimmick. This game is also fairly short though, so the puzzles never get boring or overstay their welcome. As you progress throughout the story, you learn a lot of interesting tidbits through texts and story beats about JJ and her friends. And while the game never really gets a bigger cast than JJ and her girlfriend, these texts often provide light banter or insight to JJ as a character. And this comes in handy later when we learn some harsh truths about the island itself. Overall, The Missing is a great representation of the LGBT community, and largely an uplifting narrative overall. I highly suggest playing it if you are able to handle all the warnings mentioned earlier, because it's a game that sticks out to me in the most memorable way. This year was actually the first time I had any exposure to The Walking Dead, and while a lot of the world elements still make no sense to me, the actual drama and dynamic of the series does. While I certainly think most of the seasons are good in their own right, Season 2 is the clear outliner of the bunch. While most seasons feel nonsensical and a little disjointed, Season 2 feels like it truly is building up to something, and with Clementine being the new lead, just makes me want to root for her even more. See, most of Season 2 was spent seeing Clementine taking care of things on her own, despite being a child. She clearly has a good head on her shoulders, and we see this set up at the beginning of the first episode as she deals with a pesky bite that isn't from a zombie. But no one wants to believe her. As the story progresses, we see Clementine actively going through relationship dynamics and fighting for her way in. Eventually this all comes to a crossing point when she interacts with two different characters, Jane and Kenny. Kenny actively tries to protect Clementine as Kenny considers her the only family he has left, but due to severe drama and grief, Kenny is not fit to really be the same kind of protector that Lee was to Clementine. Meanwhile, we have a stark contrast with Jane, as she interacts with Clementine in a more of a partner dynamic. Jane recognizes Clementine as a force of her own and just needs to be shown some ropes in order to be more effective. Both these characters provide such a great sense of theming that neither character feels wrong for Clementine to look up to, while also still remaining a core theme of how Clementine should go about her future. This all leads up to a rather climactic moment that I feel the series has never really topped again, and honestly that's something I hope everyone can draw their own conclusions to. Uncharted 4 should just not work. Usually when sequels spread themselves to the fourth, a lot of things go wrong. Characters start to become flanderized, new characters added on can feel super forced, and largely it just feels like we are just doing the same things over again, and that is perhaps what makes Uncharted 4 so brilliant in execution. This game is not only the longest Uncharted game in the series, but also one with the most compelling story. The game focuses on Nathan Drake finally meeting his estranged brother, Sam Drake, and getting pulled back in to do one last job before retirement, or whatever he's doing. Boat stuff, I guess. However, this last job turns into a wild goose chase as he and his brother get mixed in with another past treasure hunter, and the goose chase suddenly becomes a race against time. And like, all this stuff shouldn't work for the series. Sam was never mentioned in the past series despite being very prompt here, and honestly he is a welcome addition to the cast. Sam has a smart mouth, sleazier attitude, and he's a little readier than his brother, and he plays off so well as a contrast to Nathan that you get to see how they really feel like brothers. Several chapters are dedicated to the boys growing up, and while Uncharted 3 did it first, 4 does it better. The constant chasing and being chased should get tiring too, but really it's what helps set this game apart from the usual Uncharted formula. There are multiple sceneries throughout this adventure, and each one looks impressive and provides new obstacles for Nathan and his crew, and from grave robbing to car chasing to pirate towns, Uncharted 4 is a sightseeing tour with an adventure. And this isn't even getting into new game mechanics like the free roaming areas within the game. Often there will be like a set chapter that is bigger than most of the other ones that offers like several little areas to explore and get like small treasures from it, and just it works so well as a small break from the main adventure. And yet that isn't the best part of this game, because while most Uncharted games don't really hit their emotional beats as well as they should, Uncharted 4 goes out of its way to set them up and knock them down in just the right moments. This leads to perhaps the best moment in the series, and let's just say it is straight up fire. I have tried very hard to like the Mega Man X games, like most other people do, but I just couldn't. The original has interesting design choices that make for a more unique experience compared to the original Mega Man, but the series constantly just drifted to Mega Man with wall jumps. Then X4 came along and fully added Zero, and it was a pretty fun ride, but ultimately the level design was still rather stale and it didn't feel different enough from Mega Man to warrant another series. But I found it, fam! The whole reason for the series, which truly made me think this is almost worth it. Mega Man X8. Mega Man X8 really took the failings of X5 through X7 and improved on it to make for not just a fun experience, but one that feels uniquely different from its classic counterpart. From the ability to shift between characters, the different playstyles of each individual character, to power-ups and unlockables, X8 gives you a lot to work toward and build to. X8 also works so well due to its RPG-like shop. While most X games have you find individual collectibles, X8 provides you with a nice solid baseline of power-ups to get from the store, and this just in turn helps focus less on stage order and more on which stage you'd like to go to first. This can especially help based on how well you handle each individual gimmick of each level, and while not every level is a solid winner, it certainly provides a more unique challenge compared to any other entry in the series. Overall, X8 is the sum of all the good parts from the Mega Man X series. It builds well on each character, all the levels are interesting and challenging, And for once in my life, Sigma isn't the bad guy. I may not be a big fan of the old Streets of Rage series, but I will stand Streets of Rage 4 as hard as I can. I cannot tell y'all enough how absolutely fresh and energized it feels to play a beat-em-up full of such passion and dedication to the series that has long since been forgotten, but given such a wonderful new coat that makes me absolutely thrilled to see each new character, scene, and music piece. Honestly, these are some Kid Icarus Uprising vibes here, and I am all for that. It not only appeals to its nostalgic demographic, but nails every beat it needs for a beat-em-up in the modern age. From learning how to use supers proper, to special star attacks, to just throwing objects and catching them, Streets of Rage 4 goes above and beyond improving the old formula while also fine-tuning these mechanics for a newer audience. This, of course, is even going into the wonderful artwork, the character design, and music that is poured into this game. Frankly, I could just talk about how good this game's aesthetic is alone, but the fact it also has multiplayer, multiple unlockables, and different modes to try out just really show how much beat-em-ups have evolved and can thrive in this new modern age. This is a game for newcomers and veterans alike, and easily one of the best games I've played this year. For like 25 bones, this game is more than worth your time, and if you could get it on sale, even better. If you ever liked a beat-em-up or thought Blaze is super cute, play this game, or I'll beat you up. Indivisible is an RPG that struggled to gain any traction as an indie darling, and I for one am saddened by it. The demo given was absolutely amazing showcase of what they wanted the game to be, and reminded me so much of Valkyrian Profile that it made my heart skip a beat. At first glance, the art looks astonishing, and it remains that way throughout the game. The backgrounds look absolutely stunning, with each new area oozing with charm and atmosphere all over the place. The character design is on par with a lot of fighting games, and honestly bursts with personality because of that. The enemy design still kinda hits reskin marks, but largely each enemy looks and feels unique and just really cool to look at. And while Indivisible looks cool, it also plays well to boot. They really hit a nice stride of helping players to learn combos while also keeping a lot of the challenge still intact. Even when you get properly settled in with the game's mechanic, more often than not if you miss a block or a combo, it could mean a huge setback for your team. Exploring the map often feels like playing a Metroidvania, with Ajna gaining certain powers to progress through certain areas, and the game largely focuses on 3 major areas throughout the game. And while there is various backtracking and certain roadblocks, it ultimately serves a better purpose to the story. And largely this praise comes from the story beats and meaningful impact the main character Ajna provides. Ajna is a rough, confused, and meaningful teen that doesn't have everything fully figured out, but through her will and determination she wants to make everything right. She constantly clashes with characters in her environment, but largely she is a force of good. Dar is a character that Ajna constantly belittles and rags on because,
"Yeah, that's my dad's murderer. I don't know what his name is."
I have told you, my name is Dar.
And it leads to a lot of character growth for Dar as he learns to be a better person and ultimately repents by helping Ajna. This character dynamic, while being one of the strongest, is exactly what makes Indivisible so meaningful. Through their time together and trials they go through, both Dar and Ajna learn to work together and ultimately become better people. And while not everyone quite gets a character arc like Dar, Indivisible is still a game about lifting each other up as one and moving past hang-ups you used to have. Indivisible could be a truly inspiring game at times, and it made me cry. Yakuza is a series that continues to impress me, and Yakuza 0, being considered one of the best games, lived up to the hype. Yakuza 0 stars 2 different protags this time, a young Kazuma Kiryu and fan favorite Goro Majima. Each side of their story focuses on an individual city, and for the most part entail different means of redeeming themselves. Majima is currently fighting for his place back in the Tojo clan, and Kiryu is trying to clear his name in order to be let back into the Tojo clan. Of course, Yakuza being Yakuza, there is far more than what appears on the surface, and leads to some great character moments. Majima really does shine the most out of the two Yakuza, being able to use a bat, manage a cabaret shop, and having better growth moments due to his character not being a focus on in future games. This isn't to say that Kiryu's moments are dull at all, as they often provide a nice break from the usual tension Majima's story brings, but it's very clear that the storyline affects Majima's character the most, as would be shown later in Yakuza Kiwami 2. We also get to learn about Nishiki and Kiryu's relationship, and just how much Nishiki meant to Kiryu before the events of Yakuza 1. And honestly, I feel the writers did an excellent job of showing us just how strong their bonds are. In all honesty, these moments learning about Majima, Kiryu, and Nishiki, and just the overall mystery of Yakuza 0 really show how strong the story for 0 is. And while I would love to talk about the developments of each character, they are perhaps experienced better by simply playing the game. 0 not only does great with its characters and storytelling, but it provides for a really interesting brawling experience by giving the boys 4 different styles to play around with, making a total of 8 different styles to use to beat up other Yakuza. This added together with the usual buffet of minigames Yakuza adds, and the robust towns of Kamurocho and Sentabori, lead Yakuza 0 to be quite an undertaking, but one that is thoroughly enjoyed throughout. Also, this game made me cry. I think Tales of Berseria may be the best Tales of game. Like, I have played roughly 4 games in the series, but from the ones I have played, this is the game that had me hyped throughout it. Seriously, Tales of Besperia's prologue is easily one of the best setups in gaming history, and what follows lives up to everything that it sets up. Besperia's story is mostly about Velvet getting revenge on those who wronged her. Throughout the course of her journey, she meets a bunch of misfits along the way, as they are either indebted or aligned with her overall goals. The actual story is darker than most, and perhaps the best part about it is that a lot of people die. The game has no problems with killing off characters or diving deeper into the problems that people face, and due to how serious they take on such topics, helps empathize the emotions of all the characters. Velvet and her party are considered monsters, and despite their notorious status, often help out more than not. This kind of dichotomy is constantly present throughout the game, and while Velvet does not act like a hero, she does at least act like someone who cares. The rest of the party all have similar layers to them that help spice things up. Number 2 here is naive to the world around him and constantly adjusting on what it means to have free will. Magilou is a mysterious witch that we never truly learn everything about, but can at least grasp at what she wants in life. Roku is a master swordsman that constantly wishes to become stronger, but only to kill his brother. Aizen is a pirate saddled with bad luck. And Eleanor is a crybaby church do-gooder that hates Velvet because she goes against the church's teachings. And can you tell which one I ship with Velvet? The game's mechanics are also changed from the usual TP system, from the previous Tales of games to the new Soul Break system. And honestly, it's a welcome change. Instead of hoping for your item time limit to end quickly to refill your TP again, the Soul Break system provides the player to use their skills to help further extend their combos, without worrying about how much something costs. Each character is interesting to handle, but Velvet truly feels like she breaks the game sometimes, which for some may be a good thing. Overall, Tales of Berseria was truly a wonderful experience, and it made me cry. Also, Velvet X Eleanor forever. Honorable mentions. Life is Strange 2. A harrowing tale of 2 brothers that really need a break from that Kit Kat bar. Halo 5. So your magical space girlfriend has gone rogue, and the space police are after you. What do you do? Birth by Sleep. A tragic tale of 3 friends sharing a single brain cell. Night in the Woods. Because sometimes just hanging out with your goth GF is enough to make the world feel good again. Megaman Battle Network. Solving problems by jacking it with Megaman just works. AI, the Somnium files, truly had me entranced from start to finish. And this was due to all the game elements working together to craft a better story that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. From its delightful characters, to its puzzle system, and grander mystery, every single part of this game is just top-notch. While I can't say too much about the amazing story and interesting plot twists that develop throughout without giving it, away, I can say that its cast of characters are truly robust and play off each other amazingly well. From the sarcastic Aiba to Dante's pervertedness, to Mizuki's heavy act and Iris's quirkiness, AI's cast of characters seems like a super odd bunch, but they play off each other surprisingly well. While the original Zero Escape series just had some random puzzles to figure out in order to escape a room, AI the Somnium Files does you one better by trying to figure out a subconscious mind. From the strange interactions to the bizarre aesthetics and stress of time, the Somnium puzzles provide much needed flavor to what the original Escape series lacked. This game truly has some interesting puzzle solving because of this, and often you have to think outside the bun to figure out how you get through these sections. While it doesn't help that these sections are also timed, it does add weight to what you are doing and makes you want to solve it faster than usual. Add these Somnium puzzles together with an interrogation minigame and somewhat comical action scenes involving Pornomax, and you get a nice combo of gameplay that never gets dull with your murder mystery. What truly resonates me with this game though is the emotional beats throughout it. While each character often presents themselves as a goofier version at first, it becomes quite apparent that each character hides their own kind of secret throughout, and everyone is just dealing with life as it goes on. As you grow through the Uncharted story, some things become more apparent to you in that route than it does in another route. Often you may be completely blind to certain aspects or facts about a character, and when you enter the next route, everything just sort of clicks. It's vastly interesting they were able to keep such an element of real life into this game, and even more so that each ending of this game feels like it truly ends the story there. While I truly did enjoy the golden route, I and a few other people still prefer another route in this game, and it feels like it has a bit of a bigger impact. Even if that is the case though, I will say this game made me hard cry like 3 different times, and that just solidified it for being my game of the year for 2020. And that's the list for 2020. This decade really began on a sour note with the coronavirus and pandemic it caused. And while I wasn't really able to hang out with friends like I used to, I still got to play a lot of amazing games. Hopefully with everything happening now, we could look forward to a brighter future. But in the meantime, we could all keep busy and play some more games. I'm Lost Leader. Thank you for watching. Sayonara. Bye bye.